Welcome to my new and improved DSCR Brokers Guide. Let's say, for example, you're shopping for a client who has a 740 credit score, single family property. They want a rate and term refinance. They've only owned it for 3 months. And you're looking for a lender who will do 80% loan to value rate and term refinance with 3 months of seasoning. The property should be worth 200,000 and the loan amount we're looking for is 160,000. My DSCR Brokers Guide will shop 41 of the best DSCR lenders out there in the broker world and tell you which lenders will do this scenario. And it'll also tell you why these other lenders won't. A lot of these lenders will only do a rate and term refinance after 6 months of seasoning or 12 months in the case of Ardrey and Home Express. There's also a few that will only go to 75%, like Champions and Dominion. So this spreadsheet basically tells you which lenders will do your deal and which ones won't. Now, that does not stop the deals. You still have to go to those lenders and get their pricing, and then you can put their pricing in here and you can compare different loan options with different lenders. And there's also a new improvement. We now have a presentation page. This is something I just made for these. So once you've picked out the scenarios you want to show to your client, you put in here, send to presentation, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and you have this term sheet with side-by-side comparisons of different lenders and the options they have available with all the details, all the closing costs, and even comparisons of different things about those lenders. And you can customize this. This actually pulls from in the shopper's guide. I have all this criteria, side by side comparisons of tons of guidelines of all these lenders, like which ones will do loans on rural properties, who has, maximum acreage, minimum square feet, minimum purchase price, which ones report to personal credit or not, which ones have an anti-flipping rule, which ones allow layered LLCs, which ones will take appraisal transfers, all kinds of different things. And you can put those in here and you can show your client side by side. Let's say you want to compare lenders who report to personal credit to lenders who don't. And if you don't know, you can go over here to the scenario builder page where you build your scenario out. And you can go down here to must not report to personal credit and say yes. Now we go to our shopper's guide. Everybody that reports to personal credit turns red and their headers turn red. So you can look down here and easily know, all right, if my client specifically says they want a lender that does not report personal credit, these are my options. And you go to those lenders, you get their pricing, you put them in here, and you can compare it for your client. So let's say AmWest is 6.5 for the scenario, but American Heritage is 7.5. And you want to show your clients the comparison of a lender who reports to personal credit versus the lender who doesn't. Sometimes this is the case. Sometimes the lenders that don't report personal credit have premiums than the ones that do. I just threw this together, but this is just to show you how this works. Okay, so this is the broker's guide. So you have everything in here. You have citizenship, which right now I only have it set up to recognize foreign nationals. In later versions, I'm planning on having it filter permanent residents, non-permanent residents, visa types, all the fun stuff. But that's coming in the future. There's also state. You put the state of the property, and when you get your broker guide, what you're going to want to do is come down here towards the bottom to all the states and put a yes in any states that you are personally licensed in. I am licensed in the state of Missouri only, so I have no on every state except for Missouri. And then it says, are you licensed in this state? If I am talking to a client who has a property in Nevada, I am not licensed in Nevada. And when I go to the shopper's guide, any lenders who do not allow you to do a loan in Nevada if you are not licensed there turns red, which turns out Nevada, most of them don't. But here, look, yes. 1QM will let you do a loan in Nevada, even if you are not licensed there. There you go. So let me fix that, change it back to Missouri. If you're closing in an LLC or an individual, you can put your credit score in here. So I have minimum credit scores. One important thing for you to remember is this does not have like a full shopping tool. So when you put the credit score and the loan to value and all that stuff in here, it's not comparing each lender's like full mix of all those things. It might be that that lender has a minimum credit score of 620 and it'll do 80% loan to value on a non-warrantable condo, but they might not do both at the same time. So that's where you have to price it out with that lender to make sure. So, remember that. But yeah, so you plug in everything in here, how long they've owned the property. This comes into play with loan seasoning on refinances. Uh, this doesn't do anything in the spreadsheet, but this is just helpful information if you're doing like BRRRR scenarios. Some of lenders want that information. Like I know Constructive, for example, and a lot of other lenders will do like purchase price plus renovation for like delayed financing and stuff like that. So that's just good to know. And then you have the existing loans. So this is if you're going to show like a refinance and you want to show them like their expected cash back. And you can see that in this scenario, it will show them their total cash scenario. So this is a rate and term refinance with a loan amount of 160 with a payoff. Doesn't have the payoff on here, but you have it in here. The payoff is 150. So on here, you can just put like an estimated interest rate. You do want to ballpark an interest rate in here because that gives it the DSCR ratio, which it then uses to check the minimum DSCR for any of these lenders. So like if your rents are 1,000, you have a 0.68 DSCR, all of a sudden, all the lenders that don't take that low of a DSCR turn red. So that can be helpful if you're looking for lenders who do sub 1.0 DSCRs. So we'll tell you. So that's what that interest rate there is for. And it's also just a quick DSCR, and monthly payment calculator that you can use on the fly when you have a client on the phone or something. And then you can put your insurance in here. There are two different fields for insurance. So typically, most people are going to use replacement cost insurance. That's like Fannie Mae standard, but there are lenders that will take an actual cash value policy. And if you're doing loans in the Midwest, where some of your loans are only like, $100,000 or less, the difference in these two policies can be pretty substantial. And there are clients who will pay a higher interest rate to go with a lender who doesn't require replacement cost insurance coverage. And if you want to filter lenders who don't require replacement cost insurance, we have a filter for that. All these lenders require replacement cost insurance, and the ones in gray do not. So you can shop specifically lenders who will take an actual cash value insurance policy. All right. Taxes, pretty self-explanatory. This stuff just, populates in the DSCR. This is where you can put your prepaids in here to show on the closing cost on the term sheet. You've got appraisal fees, credit pull, title fees, transfer taxes. If you've got transfer taxes, you can put the percentage in there. You can also set up your compensation structure. So you have like your BIPs that you charge, and if you have a minimum and a maximum, you can put those in there. And then we have all these random fields. These are all like different situations that a borrower might have. You have a client that comes to you and says, hey, do you do DSCRs on rural properties? Well, yes, I do. And check it out. Turns out there's actually more lenders than I thought who do loans on rural properties. Now, some of them, a lot of them just say yes, which means yes, they do rent rural properties, and some of them have restrictions around those properties, so it turns yellow, and that does filter down here. So if their lender name turns yellow down here, it means they do, but there's restrictions. You want to kind of look at those. All right, and then yeah, let's say it's got, you put the acreage in here. There are lenders that have maximum acreage, minimum square footage, replacement cost if there's a layered LLC. need borrower as entity. So this is kind of a niche thing. I've got a few clients who absolutely don't want their personal name on the note. They want to only sign the note as a member of the LLC, and they get weird about that. And it's also the best way to tell if that loan could ever report personal credit, by the way. So there are lenders who don't report personal credit, but still want them to sign the note as an individual. There is a risk that if that lender ever sells the servicing to some other company, they could start reporting it to personal credit. But if they signed it as an entity only, they're not supposed to, and you can fight that. So there's another little tidbit for you. Need to count higher FICO. So this is something a lot of people don't know, but a lot of these DSCR lenders, when you have multiple members of an LLC and one of them's credit score is lower than the other, they will actually take the higher of the two credit scores. A lot of lenders will actually do this. So that's a good question for you to ask your clients. If there's a partnership and one of them has not so good credit, you can go to these lenders and they will price it off the higher of the two credit scores. Must credit, talk about that first time home buyers, borrower own their own home. Not going to allow that. There's a couple lenders that want the borrower to own their home, and it'll turn red if that's not the case. Unsourced large deposits. If you're doing a purchase scenario and they have large deposits that they can't explain the source for, uh, there are lenders that just don't ask, and you can filter them. Anti-flipping rule, same thing. If it's a purchase and you know the property they're buying, the seller flipped it and is selling it too soon, you can filter out lenders with anti-flipping rules. I also have some of these things, I actually have breakdowns of the different lenders and exactly what those rules are. So like delayed financing. Every lender treats delayed financing differently. So I don't have it filtered on the shopper's guide, but I do have a side-by-side comparison of all the different lenders and how they treat delayed financing in here. So you can kind of look at that. Same with anti-flipping rules and large deposits. So, and there might be more of those coming soon too, with like side-by-side comparisons of different lenders' guidelines where it gets kind of in the weeds a little bit. We also filter lenders that accept subordinate financing, assignment fees, seller concessions, like what percentage of seller concessions different lenders will accept if you need a appraisal transfer, and also an indication for those of you who prefer to order your appraisals directly from the AMC versus using a lender portal. There are a few lenders that will let you do that, and you can filter those out as well. So there you go. That is that. So you basically build out your entire scenario in exactly the way you want it. You go to the shopper's guide and you look for any lender that has not done reviews. And those are the lenders you can shop and you can plug in different scenarios. And if you're a real nerd, I've got 6 scenarios for each one. And you can compare different loan to values, different prepayment penalties, different point buy downs, and you can send your borrower up to 5 scenarios of whatever the heck you want. So the way you would do this is, let's say you're looking at AmWest and you want to show them, um, option one is with a 543 step down prepayment penalty. So you can type in here what prepayment penalty you want, so you can change this around as much as you want. So let's just say AmWest is 6.5 for a 543 step down prepayment penalty, and they're 6.25 for a 5-year 54321 step down. You can show your client, here you go. You can take 6.5 with a 3-year step down, or you can take 6.25 with a 5-year step down. And you can even still compare that with constructive over here with a 5-year step down and a 7% interest rate. They don't report personal credit, Oh, well, we got a duplicate. Look at that. This is another feature. If you try to, you have to put in here the number of scenario that you want it in. And you can't have more than one scenario in the same spot, basically. So you got to pay attention to that. And they do turn green when they're lit. So if you're trying to figure out why there's a duplicate, if you got too many scenarios in there, it's pretty easy to figure that out. So you can show someone, here's 2 different options for AmWest, here's one option for constructive, your heart's content, whatever you want. And if you want to change, like say you want to look at all the lenders at 80% and all the lenders at 75%. On this green box here, you can just change the loan amount to something else. So let's say, we're looking at 80% here we want to look at 75%. Well, you just change the loan amount to what would be 75%, and it changes that entire row to 75%. And you can put in your scenarios, you can change your prepayment penalties, whatever you want to do, and it'll show up in here. So now option 2 is AmWest uh, with 20%, or sorry, with 75% loan to value. So there you go. You have all of those, and we have 6 different scenarios for each one. So you can analyze to your heart's content, and you can send your client a full term sheet with all the details. There's also a second page where I have some disclaimers in here. Um, this is not locked. So when you get your DSCR Brokers Guide, if you want to put your own disclaimers in here and change what I have here, you can obviously do that as much as you want. And it is formatted right now to where when you print this to PDF, the page breaks perfectly. So you just print it, you get a 2-page document with their scenario on one page and the disclaimers on the second page. So there you go. That is my DSCR Broker Guide, new and improved. Hope you like it. I have changed the fee on these because it is a lot more involved and a lot more advanced. So this new version of the Broker's Guide is $50 for a 6-month subscription. So that gets you the most recent version of the Broker Guide right away instantaneously. And then you get a new version in your email every month for the next 6 months. And then it automatically renews for another $50 every 6 months. And you just keep on getting new versions. And I do send out updates every month, changing any guidelines that have changed. Maybe I'll take a lender that has not been doing well out and add a new lender in there. I do take requests for that too. If you're a subscriber and you say, "Hey, Jack, can you throw in, this lender that I've heard about?" I'll look into that, and if they seem pretty good, I'll add them to the spreadsheet. So there you go. Hope you like it. Thanks a lot.